explain just what I'm feeling. Empress show no insecurity. Just take my hand, let's try the road and build a family.
And that's why Rasta love the Empress, them Kajaja send them as a blessing. Should mix up in as darkness that the arms all sing. Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face is full of beauty like an African stream. Yes, full of the woman named Rasta send them as a blessing. Should mix up in as darkness that the arms all sing. Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face is full of beauty. For the Empress, them we balling out. For the woman, them we calling out. For the Empress, them we balling out. Whoa. Rasta love the Empress, them Kajaja send them as a blessing. Shoulda mix up in a slackness that a pagan sing. Ting Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face is full of beauty like an African stream. Say we love the Empress, them Kajaja send them as a blessing. Shoulda mix up in a slackness that our arms all sing. Ting Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face is full of beauty, you got it. Okay, woman come in my life and stand by my side. No if, no buts, no maybe. Come and love how you smile, and I love how you roll. No hiding your natural beauty. Don't follow those fools who break the rules and try to box some booty. Elevate yourself, you're cutie. Okay, woman, your loving is strong. You keep me warm at nights and in the morning. Your elegance and confidence so pure and charming. No make them hold it down. Keep your ways, yeah, my darling. Send the message, no the answer to the calling. Okay,
Rasta love the Empress, them Kajaja send them as a blessing. She no mix up in a sadness at times of sin. Ting Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face full of beauty like an African stream. I love the Empress, them Kajaja send them as a blessing. She no mix up in a sadness that I idiot something. Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face full of beauty like a stream now. I'm so grateful for the way you have cared for me. Even when I made mistakes, girl, you were there for me. Your heart is willing and I know the world you cheer for me. So I will never break your heart or be unfair to thee. The way you move, your natural beauty so appealing. For you sometimes words can't explain just what I'm feeling. Empress show no insecurity. Just take my hand, let's try the road and build a family.
And that's why Rasta love the Empress, them Kajaja send them as a blessing. Shoulda mix up in as darkness that the arms all sing. Ting Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face is full of beauty like an African stream. Yes, full of the woman named Rasta send them as a blessing. Shoulda mix up in as darkness that the arms all sing. Ting Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face is full of beauty, you got it, yo. I know it is my destiny to have a wife and family, live a life of stability, heights and up the order of divinity.
Whoa, Empress, can't you see? You're the one for me, so full of quality, yeah. Virtuous queen, so fine, I'm so glad you were mine. I will never let you go.
Yeah, so I love the Empress, them Kajaja send them as a blessing. Shoulda mix up in a slackness that our arms all sing. Ting Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face is full of beauty like an African stream.
Yes, we love the Empress, them Kajaja send them as a blessing. Shoulda mix up in a slackness that our arms all something. Ethiopian queen, see what I mean. Your face full of beauty like a stream. Whoa.
For the Empress, them we balling out, yeah. For the woman, them we calling out.
Strictly for my Empress.
For the Empress, them we balling out. For the woman, them we calling out.
Love the Empress.
For the Empress, them we calling out. For the woman, them we balling out. For the Empress, them we balling out.
You're calling about your mobile.
Ooh, yeah, 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 yeah. Ooh, yeah, yeah. They got so much things to say right now. They got so so much things to say. They got so much things to say right now. They got so much things to say. Hey, but I'll never forget no way they crucified Jesus Christ. I'll never forget no way they sold Marcus Garvey for rice. Ooh, I'll never forget no way they turned their backs on Paul Bogle. Hey, hey, so don't you forget who you are and where you stand in the struggle. They got so very, 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 so very. They saying everything. They say so much today. They got so much things to say, so much things to say. But I come to fight flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So while they fight you down, stand firm and give Jah thanks and praises. Cause I do expect to be justified by the laws of men. By the laws of men. Oh, jury found me guilty, but truth shall prove my innocence.
Welcome to EE.
Oh, when the rain fall now, it won't fall and one man's house stop. Remember that. When the rain fall, it won't fall on one man's house stop. They singing so very much, so very much, so very much, so very. They got so much things to say right now. Yeah, they got so much things to say. Hey, but I and I not come to fight flesh and blood. Spiritual wickedness in high and low places. So while they fight you down, stand firm and give Jah thanks and praises. I and I no expect to be justified by the laws of men. By the laws of men. Hey, truth got to prove my innocence. Although the wicked think they found me guilty, they got
no cigarette smoking in my room. Yeah. I Stephen Marley, Bless FM radio, playing good.
Them I wonder how Bless Radio do this. I see them.
Manita wali inota tongu wenchi di kubuni di kututa futuluma wafu di genyose afaga bevai maheru dokonu materu naba maheru naba maheru naba prophet nebnaba la musa moro din big dog on the truth teller. The prophet Nebnabala Musa moro din big the chosen one, the Messiah. Basa ile mugenaba mazi otobile bana bilege naba isina basa ile mugenaba dikizi yomte defense na merite bia no ifese anye kizi yomte nyamfese dikizi yomte defense anya dile maheru shinye fese ina la hotela naba maheru naba the truth teller. The prophet Nebnabala Musa Moron and the bigger. The chosen one, the Messiah. He is the chosen one and the Messiah. He's the light and the way. The wisdom of our days. The healer, the preacher, the truth teller. Bangati Togonunge, listen up a second. What you're forced.
Ujayi and greetings. Welcome to the Wisdom of the Nile show. I'm Katasta Fakara with you this evening, sharing with you the inspiration, the vibration coming fresh straight from the land of Merita. Greetings, how have you been? It seems a while since we've been on this journey together. It's been a few weeks since I've been live, but we know our sister and brother, Nahipsa and Kasati, have been doing a wonderful job holding the fort. So I really want to say bless up to all the other radio hosts, members of the Earth Center who come on and share this platform, share this space, all of those from Manu, from Merita. Manu is where we call America, right? From Manu, from Merita, all of the initiates, all those who come to share their knowledge. And, you know, really sharing the knowledge that our brothers and sisters have from whichever walk of life. When you're standing in your truth, when you're standing with the ancestors, when you're standing with the knowledge of that which was passed down from our ancestors, then you know you're really standing somewhere. So we give thanks for those who have held the teachings, held the knowledge, so that persons like myself can come and feed from that cup, drink from the cup of life, And, I really do see it as the cup of life, because without those teachings, I do not know where I'd be. Well, yeah, I probably know where I'd be, in a 3-piece suit somewhere, or behind some computer desk, or, living the American dream, right? And that dream has become a nightmare, as many people have seen. So, yeah, we give thanks being here. And another Wednesday evening here in London. It's been quite warm here. And I know it's in the middle of August, and really, we should be saying, yeah, that's normal, right? Maybe not. When we get the sun here, we have to give thanks. Today wasn't as hot as it has been, but we have been Ra has been sending the energies from the universe onto this part of the planet so that, we can rejuvenate, because we know when the sun comes up, we get more vitality, we get more energy, we get more life. So we give thanks. Here in London as well, we've been having and I'm going to say it because it's been part of our community, the carnival. Yes, members of our community have been enjoying the carnival. And the carnival, is an event that has come from the Caribbean. But, it's interesting because there was one of the sisters, she goes every year, and she was talking about, and I can't remember the names that they use, but they use some names, so they have something like Juba and some other names that come from different Caribbean countries, but and what they do different things which depict different energies from those countries. And one of the ones that she mentioned was like Jankuno. And Jankuno was something I remembered as a little girl in Jamaica, where we would have this person dressed up, the costume would be like all made of all like kind of rags and things like that, but they would be dressed up, and they would have some kind of implement. So it could be like a pitchfork, or it could be some kind of implement in their hand, and they would have like a festival, and then this person, it wouldn't be a person because it was a symbolic representation, would come out, and all the children would run and hide. And I remember them using John Kuno as a means to frighten. I remember my grandmother talking about it a lot. And I remember when I was in Jamaica as a young girl, and they would say John Kuno is passing up at a certain place in the area, because we lived in country. And John Kuno, like I said, was dressed in all of this rags, and he had something in his hand. Okay, fast forward like 30 years, and I go to Gambia. And when I go to Gambia, I have the great fortune to be able to go up into the go up into the countryside to witness an initiation ceremony. And it's actually an initiation where the young children who have come back from the bush from initiation, they actually are having the welcome back ceremony. And that whole ceremony in itself was really, really a wonderful thing to watch these youths who have now entered into a stage of manhood. So they would have gone through circumcision, they would have been taught certain things within the bush, and now when they come back to the community, they're coming back as a different child, really. Their clothes that they wear into the bush, they actually take that and they burn that, or they get rid of it. So the children never put on back those clothes, because it's almost like returning to who you were, so they don't wear those clothes. But what we saw in the village was this man dressed up in all of these this costume, this red costume, and everywhere he went, people were running, and he would make after people, but his name was Jakanu. And I was like, hold on. When that light bulb moment goes on, that we directly took the dances, the images, and I know it theoretically, but when you go and you see it physically, it makes it's a whole different thing. So there was this Jankuno, who was dressed up in this costume, and he represented the aspect of life that children needed to be aware of. So I don't know if he went into the bush with the children, but he certainly was there at the ceremony when they came back, and he represented that the struggles that you would face in life, the things that you had to face going through manhood. So it was just so wonderful to see that connection, and I knew even though I knew before, I knew that I was really part of this culture. Our culture was directly coming from that. So there's so many things that we bought. So I say that to say in relation to the carnival, that, you know, that was whole aspects of our culture coming up there. And it was a very peaceful event. Thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of people were there. And alas, it has now been commercialized. I think one of those big companies like Virgin or one of them have taken it over. You know, I don't know if they've taken it fully out of the hands of the community, but, you know, yeah. So that was a major event that was happening here in London, and I know I couldn't find a lot of my friends because they were gone. They were gone into the carnival. But yeah, so aspects, vestiges of our culture now being commercialized. But within that, you know, there are vestiges of deep culture, and that's really the point I wanted to make, that our culture still exists in so many remnants, in so many words, in so many ways, you know. So we give thanks again and acknowledge those who keep the culture in all its respects, in all its manifestations. And yeah, so we salute all of those organizations, all of those people who stand strong and firm. You are in tune to the Wisdom of the Nile show, and this evening we have a wonderful show for you, and we're going to have a very special person. Everyone is special because to all of us life was given, yeah. So, and you know, the Most High has given us, Creator has given us that life, you know. But when we say special persons, you know, we have to acknowledge those who do great works in the community. They sacrifice themselves for the works, you know. So we're gonna I won't say who it is yet, but we're gonna have a special guest coming on soon and sharing with us their knowledge. You're listening to the Wisdom of the Nile show. I think at this point, I would just like to play a little of the Voodoo drums. Let's see if we can get some traditional drums playing. These are drums coming out of Haiti. Haiti, as we know, strong culture, strong energy, a force to be reckoned with. Yes. Drums from Haiti, the rhythms of Haiti, those drums that, allowed us to be able to overcome so much. Just talking about Haiti, again, having the being able to, having the privilege, I want to say, being able to travel to Haiti and with the Earth Center and traveling to the what they call the door of return, actually. So there's a huge like gateway where it's a monument beside the sea, which recognizes those of us who have come back, who have returned back to the motherland. And it was really interesting. Sometimes we talk about spirituality and we talk about our roots and our connection, but sometimes we don't appreciate just how real really is and how deep this spiritual connection is, and also the spiritual power. When slavery was abolished during the 1800s, whenever they abolished it, it was continued by two countries, and I can't remember specifically who they may have been the Dutch, but anyway, just because I'm not 100% sure, but it was by a European country. It still continued. I think the English may have been on it as well. And so they were still going through certain parts of Africa to get Africans from inland and take them away on the ships. But the Africans that they were going for were ones who were coming from regions like you would call probably Togo, Burkina Faso, from those regions, Nigeria. And these were Africans who had strong spiritual powers. Remember, the people of that region, so when we talk about the Dogomba people, we talk about a migration of people, but not just the Dogomba. You had other peoples migrating across the Sahara from East Africa into West Africa. And these people set up their communities across what we now call West Africa. And so when these people were going into, so these enslavers were going into Merita, so Africa, Merita, they were taking people from these regions, but these were also people who had very strong powers. And on one of the, I don't like to call it tours, but on one of the places where we stopped, there was a guide who was telling us about the transition of Africans onto the boats. And what would happen was those that came from that region were so powerful. And there were a number of steps, a number of stages, and maybe one day I will speak about those. I think it was 6 or 7 steps that the African had to go through before they actually alighted the ships which took them across the Atlantic. And that was necessary for them to go through that process so that they could train the African to be able to, 1, deal with the voyage, but 2, not use their spiritual powers. One of the things that they did, putting them in cellars, underground basements, basically. So the African got used to being in cramped areas. But one of the stops, so there was about 6 or 7, because there are a number of spiritual things that was done as well. So we didn't just come like this, so that's one of the things that I'm really trying to highlight. It wasn't just that they came, captured us and put us on a boat. It wasn't that simple for many of us. There was a whole process that they understood had to go through to enable to get us on the ships. And there were certain Africans that had so much power that when they took them onto the boats, by the time they got left the shores and had started to sail, They were, even though they were down in the basement of the boats and they were chained and, that they were under, somebody else's jurisdiction, they were able to use their powers to overturn the ships. They were overturning ships through spiritual powers as they were leaving the port. And so what the Europeans had to do was to fight. And then, so obviously when the ships overturned, the Africans would swim back to shore. So they weren't able to, and these are one of the places where they could still trade, because a lot of the other places now, you weren't legally able to trade anyway, right? Human beings. Can you imagine? We're talking about trading and human beings. But it had now become illegal by the Europeans, but there were still some who were trying to cash in on human lives. And so what they had to do was to go through a series of spiritual rituals to take the spiritual powers from those Africans before they put them on the boat. So there were a series of rituals that had to be done. And I can't even express what was going through my mind, through my heart, in my spirit, my ancestors, everything that was happening as I stood at the point where Africans had to go through this ritual, walking around and using deities to take away the spiritual powers of our ancestors. It wasn't a simple thing. That's the point I want to make. It wasn't a simple thing. And so, those who passed through the Middle Passage, it wasn't a simple journey. And it was this week as well that a video came through. And this video, there's this now African museum in, I think it's Washington, D.C. Somebody can correct me if that's not where it is. But it's a monument to Africa and Africans. And some people who were involved in putting some of the material and the artifacts into the museum, they also run a diving school. And that diving school, they take volunteers, they teach you how to dive, and then they go into the Atlantic oceans. They are going to different oceans in the world, and they find the wreckage of our ancestors. And they make dives to the wreckage. And it was so profound to see the effect that it had on those who were now for the first time seeing these ships that had gone down with our people on board. Why do I say this? Because to have come through the Middle Passage, to be kidnapped from our homelands, to be stripped of our powers, stripped of our identity, many times stripped of dignity. And there were those of us who refused to give up our identity, even if it meant in generations to come we would resurface. But to go through all of that and to survive until this day, and even though we're here saying we're surviving, we still see what's happening to our brothers and our sisters in the streets, means that there is a lot. There is an enormous amount of healing that must take place. Healing of mind, body, spirit, and soul. Because we are still witnessing the trauma that our people have faced being played out every day. And so, for me, one of the key things to heal, one of the key things to I don't want to use the word appease, but for now I'll use the word appease or to relate to our ancestors, because they are the ones that went through this. Although we and our ancestors are connected, they went through that trauma so we could be here today. And one of the key ways of healing, having this holistic healing, is through culture. Returning to our roots. Because through culture, we are able to reconnect once again. In the Earth Center, we have a branch of the Earth Center called Ancaster. And you may have heard different persons coming on and speaking. We had Zetan Affair some time ago from the US. She's the international chair for Ancaster. But Ancaster is one of those vehicles. The Earth Center itself is one of those vehicles. You know, the Earth Center is a place where those souls who are lost, who are looking for culture, who are looking to return, who are looking to be whole, those souls who are searching the Earth Center in its entirety is an abode. It's like an ark. Per Ankh, in fact, is called the House of Life. That's the initiation section of the Earth Center. And I'm gonna give out shortly a lecture that will be happening this Friday for anybody who wants to come to the Earth Center London to know a little bit more about the Earth Center. And we will be speaking about ancestors. But so I'll speak a little more about that later on. But we have a section, a branch of the Earth Center called Ancaster. And Ancaster specifically deals with healing. So although we're talking about healing in its entirety, so, you know, from you enter into the Earth Center, from you of that mind, you're healing. You're on the road to healing. Yeah, in all respects. But the Ancaster part of the Earth Center is about traditional healing. And there are many aspects of that. And why, again, for me, who was born in the West, why for me that it was so important to reconnect and to be a part of something that and I'm speaking specifically about Ancaster, be a part of something where I could embrace my culture and the healing part of my culture in its entirety without feeling or without having to think that, you know, oh, this is voodoo and voodoo isn't good, or this is tradition and tradition isn't good. I was able to embrace, and I could see brothers and sisters like myself embracing what our ancestors held. And so in Ancaster, we have different aspects. And one of those aspects is Umtam Bayawali reading. And just that in itself is a lifetime worth of knowledge. It really is a lifetime worth of knowledge. Like I said, you know, I've been on this road of returning to culture for 30 plus years. And I've it's been, you know, my spirit just would not accept, you know, being dictated to by European. I'd had enough of that. We'd been through slavery. I'd gone through school, and now I think I worked 1 year. I worked for 1 year full time in an office, and then that was it. My spirit couldn't take it anymore. So I temped the Earth Center and Ancaster in particular, because healing is what I love. The whole aspect of healing, herbal medicine, holistic healing, spiritual healing, healing of the mind, healing of the soul. And this is what our people are in need of. We can never get that healing by going through a European system, because it was never designed to heal the African soul. It was never designed to heal the African mind. And hopefully we will speak, especially when our special guest comes on. Hopefully we can speak a bit more about the importance of Umtam, the importance of earth readings, the importance of the spiritual consultations that take place. Because, remember when I spoke about one of the things that happened was this taking away of our spiritual power. And many of us have come through in the West. We've gotten aspects of our culture, we've gotten many aspects, but that spiritual aspect is still missing because of the religiosity that was placed on us. So really trying to find authentic spirituality is a must, and really being able to reconnect with traditional ways of consulting the earth, consulting the divine energies that rule this domain, the laws and principles which we all must abide by, no matter how exalted we may think we are. I was doing some research recently, and I was looking into physics because I love science, all of that, and it's all to do with the healing aspect. And we were looking at I was looking at the frontier of physics at the moment, and as you know, they've gone through things like the atom, and then they've gone down on a lower level of the atom, and they're looking at quarks, anti-quarks. Oh wow, when I saw that I was like, yes, because and then beneath the level of quarks, boson quarks, which are the fundamental parts of the atom. So the atom is made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. And underneath that, there's another level called quarks. So now, what they found was that with these quarks, there are anti-quarks. The point of that was that within very simple concepts within the tradition, they talk about Heru, they talk about Seth. You have Wusa, you have Set, you have Aishat, you have Nepsit. There is always this counterbalance. What they are seeing is that when there is, now they can't see it, this is the point, but they understand through their mathematical equations. So remember, they have removed the let's call it the spiritual, the essence of it. So we understand that when Europeans are looking at this level, they're simply looking at mathematical formulas. But from their mathematical equations, they understand that there is a quark and there is an anti-quark, which means that there is something you see and something that you can't see, which is equal and opposite on another dimension, which they can't quite access, but they know it must be there to how the quark forms. There's this quark and these bosons, and they cannot separate them. When they look at this, when they look at life at this depth, they see that the very heat energy, or the very fact that they are interacting just by looking at these fundamental elements of life, causes a reaction. What they are seeing is the interconnectedness of life. And then beyond that, they've gone to this thing of string theory. And the significance of that is that these strings, again, it's not a physical thing that they see, but it's at a level where they understand that these strings are really vibrations, sound that permeate through the universe. And again, in our teachings within the Earth Center, we understand that sound was one of the first things that came into this dimension. Let's continue listening to the Voodoo drums. The sound of the Voodoo drums. We're going to be playing those again shortly. I just want to give you some information on what's happening in the school, and I will give you some information again later. But for those who want to know more about the Earth Center, I would suggest you come in and have a listen to what's happening at the school. I'm going to be right back after some more drums. Yes. So I'm just lining up our special guest in the break in the meantime too. But before we have our guest this evening, I'd like to share with you the details for those of you who want to come and hear the lecture at the Earth Center School. You can come and listen to us. It's the Wisdom of the Nile lecture series. So this Saturday, the 31st of August, 2019, there will be a lecture on the importance of ancestors. The importance of ancestors. And that's from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. And that's going to be held at 21 Sunnyside Road. That's Leighton E10 7BB. That's 21 Sunnyside Road, Leighton E10 7BB. Now, if you want more details, you can call on 0207 175 4144. That's 0207 175 4144. So let me just say that number again, 0207 175 4144. Or if you prefer to email, you can do so at inquiries-uk@theearthcentre.org. Tickets are just £7. And for those we've also got another event that's going to be coming up in September. That's lecture 2, Spirituality vs Religion. So again, if you want to come in on this series of lecture, it is definitely worthwhile coming in and hearing the wisdom of the ancestors, just like we have the Wisdom of the Nile show. So yes, this Saturday, 31st of August, lecture 1 is the importance of ancestors. That's 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. and that's going to be held there at Leighton, 21 Sunnyside Road, E10 7BB. Entrance is £7. You can pay at the door, or you can go on to Just Tickets. If you go on to Just Tickets and look in their event section, the importance of ancestors, you'll find that. And 0207 175 4144 if you want to know more about the Earth Center. And if you are also interested in coming in and being an initiate, the doors of initiation will be opening within the next few months. So this is a good time to come in and see what the Earth Center really is really about. You can actually come in on a Sunday and sit in on classes and see for one class. So that's 6 hours, 2 hours each class. You can come in for one Sunday and see what it is that you'll be learning through the Earth Center. We have Divine Holy Days every 10 days where we have a communities, what we call Zemzem. And after our special guest, I'll give you a bit more info on what's going to be coming up in the month of September, the month of Tahuti, which is known for us because that's when our new year starts. So there's going to be a series of events happening at the school, separate and apart from the lecture that's happening. That's things that initiates will be doing, and the public is welcome to come and join us. So we'll be giving you some more information on that. But before I do, I would really like to welcome our guest. So let's see if we can get our guest on the telephone. So Ujayi. Okay, let's see. Ujayi. I think I hear something. Ujayi. Is this our this is our special guest. Say Ujayi again, please. Ujayi. So we want to welcome Naba Irita Shenmira, who is once again with us in the UK, come to share some of his blessings and his knowledge. Welcome to the Wisdom of the Nile show, Naba.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I know you've just come into the UK just a few days, so it's really wonderful to have you here with us. And I know you must be so tired. So again, thank you for even agreeing to come on the show and to share some of your wisdom. Is it the US or is it Medita you've been? Because you've been all over the place, so I can't even keep up with you.
Yeah. I've been in America, and then I spent 2 months in America, and then after America I went to US, and just coming from US now. I was there for about a month, and then I'm coming from US to London to come and see how everybody's doing on this side.
Oh, give thanks. The last time you came, you left us. You left a blazing trail, and we were thankful for that. We were thankful because it's always good to get the knowledge as it is, get the knowledge as it is. So we were really, really, really thankful in the initiates, and I know many other people, was really thankful for your words of wisdom that you had to share. And so Naba, as usual, we really want to gain some more of your wisdom. Tonight we were talking about the healing, and we were talking about the Ancaster side of the Earth Center. And I was specifically speaking about that because as a people we are still so much in need of healing. But I specifically was looking at, and please feel free to speak on any aspect of it that you would like to. But there are aspects that our people don't know about or we shun, and these are key parts of our culture, key parts of our even existence in this universe with this dimension and others. And one of them was and Bayawali readings and spiritual consultations. Could you share with us the importance of things like maybe share with us what it is, Bayawali readings and spiritual consultation. What is the significance of those?
This is a very, let me say, pertinent subject of human life, which unfortunately is really kind of forgotten or kind of lost, But I was lucky enough to be born among the people who kind of preserve those knowledge and information for thousands of years now, and then I will continue to pass it down to the youth, to the younger generation, a way of preserving it, a way of perpetuating that knowledge so that humanity doesn't totally forget about that knowledge or doesn't lose it. And I will take this opportunity to acknowledge all of those guardians, all of those keepers of the knowledge, especially to Master Naba, Prophet Naba Lamusa, for allowing, all of us, I don't want to say me, all of us to, come from different branches, of life, and somehow we end up finding ourselves under the same tree of life where we have to be sharing, working together and fighting for this honorable mission that he left behind. And the term is, let me say, we call it the language of the God. The language of the God, meaning the only language that allow us to be able to communicate with the unseen, to be able to communicate with the non-material existence. And among the Dogon, among the Dagomba, among the Gumanche, we also have that as the foundation of our growth, as the foundation of our intellectual, our spiritual, uh, philosophical, psychological, and also health, state as a human or as people or as a community. And talking about the Gumanche, I will take this opportunity as well to acknowledge the memory of our Majesty of the Gulumu, who finally made his transition last week. And he went to join the World of the Dead.
Okay.
He's been a very powerful and key in our march towards achieving this goal, towards achieving this mission that the Earth Center carries around the world. And this is almost like a father to the Earth Center who just, transitioned. He transitioned after 17 years of reign, and he was 94 years old when he transitioned. So may he be received, and may his spirit and all of the powers that he was granted, or those granted him the power to reign, to sit on the kingship. May all of the powers keep enlightening each one of us, walking towards the revalorization of this culture. Sometimes is very important for human health because we don't look at human health as something that is typically physical. We look at human health on three different dimensions: the physical dimension, the energetical dimension, and the spiritual dimension. And if we just have to talk about the physical dimension of the effect or the importance of time for human health or human well-being, there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about in the matter of a human being is someone physically and also energetically linked to the planet that we live on, planet Earth. To talk about healing, there's no such healing that does not depend on the product of the earth. There's no such healing that does not depend on things that also benefit from the energies of the earth. I'm talking about the trees. I'm talking about the plants. I'm talking about any other aspect of life that allow human beings to kind of fix or bring harmony in their well-being. So even for those who feel like in the new age or in the modern society, we were very surprised to find out that people are using rocks. They call them crystal or rocks to somehow speak about healing. One aspect of the healing is that about 10 to 15% of a healer being able to heal his or her patient is dependent on the concept of belief, or the concept of belief, if I can use that word. Because for the people who believe that the rocks and the crystal carries power and then can heal, that's something that for us we will look at it and be like, then it's just a belief, because the whole earth itself is a rock. The whole earth
Yes.
itself is a rock.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of taking a piece of the earth that you still standing on
Mm.
to say that you want to be healing people, I mean, which is really like destroying, which is really like being selfish being selfish or ignorant in the way that you're trying to we're trying to approach healing. But technically, we view planet Earth to be like a big rock. Now, if there's anything we can benefit from it, any energy that can assist us, then we just have to go straight to the source instead of going to the pieces of that big rock. We can just deal with the mother of those pieces that people are using, and then come up with a solution to people's or human being, physical instabilities. Now, the earth is the same one that's providing us water. The earth is the same one that providing us plants and trees and all of that. So, in that physical aspect of healing, we still need time. We need the knowledge of time. We need the science of time to be able to, question, that earth, to be able to question that big rock, that is like, that has like an eternal or infinite, what do you call it, infinite energy that's kind of within it. So, in trying to question the earth, we depend on time science. We depend on that language of the gods because the earth is too big for human being to just feel like I'm talking to the earth. So we need to go question the earth in going in the earth's memory, going to the core of the earth, and then question it and find a solution. Let's say if let me use an example. If Trump, Mr. Trump comes and said that he's having like stomach pains, maybe because he had some Greek salad that he didn't like, or that his body didn't like and causing him some stomach pain. I'm not going to blame physically. I'm not going to blame the salad. I'm not going to blame, the Greek salad, because it's already a salad, a mixture of many things. So what I'm going to really do at that moment is question the energy of, Mr. Trump in relation to the energies of the earth, because the salad that he ate is something that's coming from the earth as well. And whoever cooked that salad is somebody who also has energies that are linked to the earth. When the person was born, it's the earth to receive the person, it's the earth to take care of the person, it's the earth to maintain the person up to now. Now, is it like, are we going to go from, what do you call it, cause, looking for the cause in the wrong place, trying to blame either the cooker, either the salad? No. Or are we going to blame Mr. Trump himself? No. We just have to question at that moment if the situation in which Mr. Trump will be, where he has like a stomach problem, is a problem that's already there. So the problem being already there, are we looking for the cause or are we looking for a solution? In the place where I'm coming from, and according to the Mutam knowledge, Mutam teachings, you will go looking for the cause, okay, above everything. Because, the cooker is just like a sequence in Mr. Trump having like a stomach problem after eating salad. And the salad also can be seen as a sequence, and all of that. Now, what we have to remember is that probably Mr. Trump wakes up this morning and then I already ate something, had maybe a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or maybe some candy that, some sweet that is not sitting well with him, putting the salad inside. Or maybe last night, the night before, he has something that is not going to sit well with whatever he's eating today. So we have to go into all of those details, in order to be able to really find out a solution. Because to look for the cause is already halfway finding the solution to the problem that Mr. Trump is doing, and that's even physical. That's even physical. Okay. Now, if we have to talk about the energetical aspect of it, then this is where the earth, will come to uh, show us probably some energetic, blockage in Trump's body that will cause him, to be having, the stomach pain after eating salad. That if we're not intelligent and we don't have the knowledge, and we kind of just want to move based on emotions and based on belief, then we'll be blaming the salad. We'll be blaming the cooker, which is not really the reason why our patient is in the situation that he is. So that's the point where we will have to fall back on the term science. We have to fall back on the language of the God to be able to kind of find the solution. And finding the solution, all of those sequence can be good reason. There's just like all of those sequence will not be the reason why he's having all of that. Now the earth at the end will be the one to provide us, with the solution that the cause, and then at the same time the solution, because the earth by itself has the responsibility to, keep its balance, So in its own responsibility to keep its balance, that we call like the Heruset, like the two forces, the forces of construction and the forces of destruction. So the earth has to balance all of those forces, and it's in the best interest of the earth. Now, if Mr. Trump happened to be like, our patient, happened to be like a person that the earth, feels like he's important for the earth, or for the stability of energies on earth, or, in the universe, then the earth will give us the cause of its problem, but also will give us the solution that will come. Now, let's take an example of where maybe the earth gives us like the solution, like to go talk to a specific, to go find the barks or the roots or the leaves of a specific, plant. Then we have to also have the knowledge of nature. We have to be able to be someone who grew up in the nature, who knows nature, who already faced the adversity of in the nature, to understand nature and all of that. So that's where now, most of the people will be using like, the new, ideology, even including the modern medical system. The modern medical system does not reach that level. But the modern medical system is a system that does not deal with nature, just deal with, some chemistry, or just deal with some combination of artificial, stuff and all of that, to kind of, come up with reasons or products to treat people. Now, are they really treating the people? That's the problem too. Now, we would prefer using like nature in order to, deal with our patient who's also part of nature, and who eats nature, who lives nature, and who's in the nature. So in that situation, a healer, to call yourself a healer or holistic healer, you still have to be able to understand nature, know the plants in the nature, understand them, know how they function, have the have the knowledge of the remedy based on nature, what nature does. So typically, a healer will not be doing something that nature does not do. We will only do what nature does, and then that's what the earth also will kind of give us. Now, let's say that the earth tells us to go find a specific plant, and that plant happens to be a plant that grows only in the savannah or in the desert. So if you happen to be someone who's from England here, where will you find a plant that grows in a desert? You're gonna have to order it from the Sahara people, the Tuaregs, living in the Sahara Desert or somewhere in Nevada, and then probably they can get it to you. You know, and if the earth says something that grows to you, something that grows in the desert, and somehow, as a healer, or by lack of knowledge, or by lack of the possibilities, you decide to use any other plant that you think might work. At that moment, you're going against the decision of the plant of the earth. You're going against the decision of the earth, and then at the same time, the plants that you try to use will be like going against. I mean, destroying that plant for no reason, because that's not what the earth, is seen to be like a solution, for that person problem. So you can see that, in healing, time can play like a big role, and it's something that's very, very important for every human being to really understand. At least, if you don't understand it, know somebody who understands it. As we say, if you cannot be a king, be at least a child or a daughter or a son of a king. At least you can get to be close to the, or be a servant in the kingdom, in the palace, the king's palace. So this is where, you see that I haven't even touched the aspect of the spirituality.
That's what I was going to say, because we've heard physical and energetic. And then for people who don't understand, because most people think if you can't see it, it's in the spiritual realm. So what's the energetic and what's the spiritual? So please do touch on that.
Yeah. I mean, I touch, physical, and all of that. I would agree that, a lot of people here don't understand the difference between something that is just energetical and something that is just physical, spiritual. Okay, and I mean it's evident. It's evident for sure, because people grow up here, just knowing only few things, and then you get to be exposed to those few things, and then that can become like the opium that gets you to be walking around the planet shouting loud that that you don't know that those who know don't really shout out loud, So the energetic aspect of the healing, the energetic aspect really just comes from what we would say that is in relation or has a link, like a straight link to the way that the universe functions, to the way that the earth, functions. Because we have what we call like the dialogue of energies, and in the dialogue of the energies in the universe, we have what we call the Bayali, and we have what we call the Yenu, meaning the planet itself is like a concentration of energies from within all the way to, on it. From inside, outside, the earth itself is like a concentration of multiple aspects of energies and all of that. But all of that functioning into some kind of vortex, okay, and to some kind of vortex where, a human being or a healer who's knowledgeable can see the difference between, or can see what to do or what to use in that vortex to be able to, fix some energetic problems that, is going on, or some health problem that's going on with somebody. So if somebody, we have a patient that happened to be standing in the wrong place, in the wrong time, what will happen is that the person will be almost like vomited by the constellation of energies on Earth. Now, once you don't have the uh, protection of the Earth, under your feet on you, what happens is that you start kind of experiencing the uh, the fight between your spirit and your body, because a body that is not in harmony with the earth or with itself is a body that will be set for destruction and probably for self-destruction. And then in that situation, once the process of self-destruction starts, what will happen is that the spirit of that human being and the body of that human being will start kind of fighting, because the spirit does not feel comfortable being in a body that is not in harmony or that is not in tune with the earth or with nature. So that can be a good reason for somebody to have like an energetic blockage or energetic complications that will be affecting now the body, and then destroying things in the person's body, because we are like a human being or any other being that lives on the planet Earth. We are like antennas to the Earth in the way that the Earth communicates with the rest of the universe. Okay, so being the antenna of to the Earth, we have to always keep ourselves clean and find ourselves in the right time and in the right place, in order for us to keep having the stability, the well-being or the balance in our body and our spirit and all of that. Now, when we don't have that, what will happen is that we start kind of distinguish. What's the word? I also have problems with that word. Kind of we start kind of decomposing. Okay? Like physically, you will start decomposing. The person will start decomposing, and through that decomposition, what will be happening is that some organs or some things in the body will be shutting down, because at that moment, once the spirit is have been trying to really harmonize the body, and then that body is not being able to harmonize itself, the spirit will just decide to give up on that body, transition, and then come back with a new body, a new and fresh body. So that's what the earth will do to the human. But we call that the micro cosmic dialogue. Okay, that's like between the human and the earth. That's how we call that. Now, between the earth and the rest of the universe, we call that kind of dialogue as the macro cosmic dialogue. And during that dialogue, there's only one thing that we observe through the internal science, and that only thing is that we have another force, energetic force, that is coming from the rest of the universe, the rest of the celestial bodies, to affect the earth. And those energies also affect us. Those energies will have to go through us in order to be able to even like affect the earth. And we call that energy the yenu. And that's actually the most important energy in the human being life on earth. Because even if your biology, gets to be meaning like your link, your connection, energetic connection with the planet, with earth, and not or nature is cut off, then you still have like the yenu that's very well, maintained and all of that. The earth at that moment will give solution, and that's the only reason the earth will give like solution. So if you want to be able to restore the harmony in the body of this person, use this, use that, do this, do this, do this, and then the harmony will come back. Now, if you happen to be a human being who does not have like the support of the earth who does not have at the same time also the support of the rest of the universe, meaning the Yenu, then at that moment, your decomposition will start and your spirit will start fighting with your body. And then through that fight, you see what we will call, energetic problem. This is not a spiritual problem. It's just like a fight, maybe the kidney is fallen, or maybe the liver is the one, failing, or maybe, all kinds of reasons, cancer, heart problems, high blood pressure, anything like that can be like a good reason.
So,
Now, let's say that somebody gets to be eating what their body or what in the blood, their blood itself does not agree with. That at that moment, we will still start talking about a spiritual, problem. Because at that moment, if you in your how do you call it, in your bloodline, or maybe among your people, the people that you are descending from, if those people already have like some natural pact with the some other beings in on earth, and saying they have to respect the life of those animals or those plants or those whatever, and then somehow you don't know about it, and then you don't know, and then you eat those kind of things, then you are now creating a problem between you and the spirit of that those beings that have the pact with your ancestors. Then also your ancestor would then will start kind of leaving you, kind of you start losing like the protection of those who pass the blood down to you. At that moment, we will have to find a way to time still, in time science, we will have to find a way to now access the spiritual realm, meaning we're dealing with the spirit of other species, and then also we're dealing with the spirit of some people who walked on this planet and then died. For us, we believe that when someone lives and they die, it's just the body that kind of cannot take it, and the spirit will continue the journey, because time and space only affects the body. It does not affect the spirit. So whatever is happening, we will have to go through time science again to be able to reach the those realm, those spiritual realm, and then trying to come up with a solution in order to bring the balance in that human being body. So these are like the main few of the situations that we might come across. But there's many situations in people's life, especially people growing up in the West, that kind of affect them, because according to the knowledge and teaching, every human being body is made to live about 150 years. Okay, like every human being is made to live, a body that every human being comes with on earth, that body has the ability to live about 150 years on this earth without being really kind of a problem. But because of the way we live, our ways of life, our style, what we eat, our diet, our ignorance of who we are, where we're coming from, also our ignorance of what we shouldn't be doing and what we should be doing, and all of that comes together. Also breaking the principles of the universe, breaking the principle of the earth, principle of nature, and all of that comes to be now like many of the situations that we kind of facing now that cause us to be living maybe even less than half of what we're supposed to live.
So basically, how we've been living our life, how we live our lives here on earth, within Umtam science, we're affected in many ways. One, with the Yenu, which is the energy from the planets that are coming from outside of the Earth, that affects us and can cause blockages and issues with us. But also, you're saying that if our ancestors had certain, and let's use the word taboos, for want of a better word, but if there were certain things that our ancestors did not use, or for whatever reason they made some agreement in that bloodline not to use something, and even though you're not aware of it, so for example, those of us born in the West wouldn't be aware of some of the pacts, agreements that our ancestors made, before we made the trip across the Atlantic. But those things, you say, will still impact on those in the diaspora?
Yeah, I mean, most of the problem that the people in the diaspora, in the West kind of experience after a little bit of, the little bit of experience that I have in the West. And as I was saying, Masanaba also lived here a little bit, and then through his experience, I got to really confirm that, because what we notice is that you will see that the sicknesses that those that we call a Caucasian, their sickness are different from the sickness that, the descendant of the slaves or the diaspora also have. And then the sicknesses that, the black people, have in the West is different from this. It's typical to them, and different from the sicknesses that people in China, will have, and then different from the sicknesses that people in Australia will have, or down in Mexico, different. So I got a chance to observe all of that, and put some researches and some thoughts into that situation after dealing with people's health and people's sicknesses and all of that. And then it becomes clear that somebody who's like a descendant of those that we call the Caucasian, dark European, that kind of person, those people, their problem, their sicknesses are different. The sources and the cause of their sicknesses are different. And even sometimes the way their sickness, affect them is different from the way that as the descendant of, Africa, our sicknesses also are different. And they're different in the way that we, like the black people, have a problem with ourselves. Okay? The problem, most of the sicknesses that black people experience in the West is that, or in the diaspora, is have their causes, being linked to those same people. Like if, Katasa, you come to see me and then you tell me that you are sick, which I'm not wishing for you, what will happen is that, to find the solutions or the cause of your problems or your sickness, we'll find out that those things are with you. It's almost like you are getting those sicknesses because you've been against yourself. You've been against yourself in the way that you live in a life that's going against yourself. Now, when you live in a life that's going against yourself, don't expect to live, past maybe 7 days and then feel like you're doing good. Okay, because if somebody is 70 years old in the West, and that person happened to be like a black descendant, that person, at the time that person was born, and if there's another person in Africa who was born around the same time too, you put those two people together, the one that is in the West will look like he or she is the father or the mother of the one that's born in Africa. But they all have the same age. Okay? So what's happening is like you live against yourself. Living against yourself is almost like walking on a path, and then you chewing that path at the same time. So somehow, at some point in time, by the time you reach in the middle of that path, you already chew almost like half of that path, and you're gonna have to just find yourself in a ditch, in the ditch that you already dig yourself. Okay, so that's the problem. Black people, black descendants, have problem with what we call the forbidden. Those people didn't know, or even they do know, and then because they've been conditioned to just live the way the Caucasian or the European live, then they don't know that that kind of life is like going against themselves. Okay, so there's a lot of things that our ancestors in Africa, even before slavery or transatlantic, slavery and all of that. Before all of that, there's a lot of things that our ancestors did not eat, a lot of things that they did not do. So we end up now even doing just what they said don't do. What they said don't do, that's what we end up doing. I mean, look at this situation that's destroying a lot of African in the diaspora. People run away from their ancestors' belief. People run away from their own self. People run away from whatever they call like darkness, or whatever they call like evil, or whatever. They run away from it, not knowing that they ran away from themselves. Now, what do? They go now and they embrace something that also is against them. Or if that thing consciously is not against them, in the subconscious of that thing, it's like something that's against them. Okay? So let's take the example of Christianity. Okay? In Christianity, you go to church and then they tell you, that somebody died for you. Somebody called Jesus died for you on the cross. Or you don't need to be giving offerings to your ancestors or animal offerings to your ancestors because, Jesus already spilled his blood. Already gave his blood for all of the, offerings that need to be made. What kind of religion is that? Where you have to be killing another human being. You have to be killing another human being, spilling another human being to say that this is an offering that you're making to that same human being father. Okay, if that's what they're saying. Now at the end, it went far to the point where now they have like this bread that they eat in the church. I don't know how you call it in English, but they eat those bread in the church and they'll be like, okay, this is the body of our Lord that we eat. You eat the body of your Lord, someone that's supposed to be like your guide, someone that's supposed to be like your, the one that you worship. You eat their blood, their body, and then they drink wine and say this is his blood that we're drinking. Now, people don't see that that's like a projection of cannibalism. That's like a projection. Whatever you put in the human being spirit, that's what that spirit will, manifest. Okay. Now we are complaining that people are killing each other around the world. People are doing, going astray. There's a lot of, killing, a lot of evil happening. But we don't know that we're the same one calling that evil. Now, very sad for black people who kind of find themselves in those situations where they feel like they're eating someone's blood, drinking someone's blood, and then eating someone's bread. And they might think someone's body. And they might think it's just a bread, or they might think it's just some wine, red wine. Now, if you want to do that, just go home and drink your wine. Bless your own wine and drink it. But don't say that you're drinking somebody's blood, that wine to represent somebody's blood, or that bread to present somebody's, body. So our ancestors were against cannibalism. Our ancestors were against cannibalism, and that's why they prefer giving sacrifice of animals instead of a sacrifice of someone's body or someone's blood, the kind. So in that kind of situation, we kind of consuming ourselves, like energetically, spiritually, philosophically, even like in psychologically, we kind of destroying ourselves, and we black people don't see it. They don't see it, and they want to blame a lot of things, but they don't really look at the cause. They don't really look at the roots of their problem, and the root of the problem is like every sickness. Any black person who comes to us and say they have like high blood pressure, diabetes, or cancer, anything, you check and you find that it's just something that is either energetical, either spiritual. And then what's causing that energetical problem or that spiritual problem is because they run away from themselves. They're almost like sitting on the same branch and then trying to cut down that branch. So that's the life of black person in the diaspora. Now, for the descendants of the European ideologies, or European or Caucasian, they have a problem with nature. These are people who don't like nature. By the way that their body, their skin is made, is something that is against nature already. Meaning like, or let me say other way, nature is against them, if I may say it that way. Okay, nature is against them the way that it's not everywhere that those people can survive. They cannot adapt everywhere. Their adaptation to nature has to act like certain places. Okay. Now, in that matter, when they end up, consuming, all of the things that they have in that place where they're supposed to feel comfortable naturally, energetically, spiritually, psychologically, and all of that, what end up happening is like they have to now walk out trying to now reach, other domain or other places. Now, trying to do that, they also go against themselves. They also going against themselves. Now, there's a lot of things that those people's also ancestors did in their life when they were living that they shouldn't be going against, Now, when you look at the people like in China, something like that, or people in some part of Asia, you will see that those people have like a very high, life expectancy, because those people don't really live. They just find a way to kind of become, keep adapting and adjusting to whatever, they already have. And they don't even want to lose their language. They don't want to lose their religion. They don't want to lose their culture. They don't want to lose, they eat, whatever they feel like this is what is there for them. Sometimes I hear people saying that Chinese people eat anything. If they eat anything and that's giving them like a long life expectancy, that's really the goal of life. The goal of life is to survive. Now, if you have to do something and then you see that that's something that you're trying to do is like against you, just know that you're the one kind of causing your own problem. And then that's really the only reason or the only time, I personally will look at a human being as a race. When it comes to healing, that's when I would look at you people and be like, okay, this person is a black person. This person is a descendant of, black people. Now let me see how I can start looking for their solution or their problem in order to find their solution. Now, if you come to me and you're like a descendant of Asia, your problem is different. I already know how to start, looking into your problems. And then same with those who are like descendants of this place, like, the Caucasian. If Caucasian come for healing, to start the person healing, we already know where to target. And then most of the time, the descendant of the Caucasian only have problem with nature. They don't have problem with themselves. It's the problem with nature. Okay, go doing things that nature said don't do. And for us as a descendant of black people or descendant of Africa, we have problem with ourselves because we doing things that our ancestors, those who passed the blood to us, said don't do. Okay, so that's where where the problem is. And one thing, sometimes I just say a lot of things on in my interviews, and then that cause pain. But somehow certain things needs to be said because when you look at one aspect that we also find a lot in those that were that are like the descendant of the Caucasian is the problem of what's the incest, the crossing of the blood, people marrying each other, same blood marrying each other without knowing. Now that same problem exists a lot in America. I don't know about England, but in America, among the descendants of the slaves, you will see that those people have like a problem, and most of them their problem is related to that the incest, because people end up getting married to people without checking to see who the person is first. But because we feel like, oh, I love her, she loves me, let's get married, and then suddenly we start making kids, and then when we start making kids, then we start bringing children. Somehow we are already like maybe brother and sister, blood-wise. Now, if we like blood-wise brother and sister, and then we happen to say we're going to get married and then have children, those children, I mean, they're not going to have good health. They'll just be, suffering, everything will just be a problem in their lives. So same thing happening with, the Caucasian is also happening with the descendants of the slaves, because those Caucasians, those descendants of slaves end up adopting the way of life of the Caucasian. So I don't know about people born in the island. I don't know about people in England, which is a big island too, which is not really a country, just like another big island. So I don't know how all of that is happening here, because I haven't really been spending much time here to deal with people. But most of the people in the West, in America, that we deal with, it's really those kind of problems that we end up finding. And as we say, sometimes science just kind of reveal all of that, and it's easy to see all of that.
You see, and wow for that. Oh, thank you for that. You see, the thing is, once structures are removed out of people's lives, and structures are not physical things, structures are things like you say, when you are able to know which bloodline you're from, and what you cross and you don't cross. I've spoken to a few African people, and one of the things that they say that the parents and the family are very strict on is that the bloodlines don't cross. So it seems to be something across a few cultures, quite a few cultures in Africa, especially with those that the ancestors or the parents, that the bloodlines don't cross. But these would have been structures that are put in within society, within the structure, the very fabric of the society. And again, within Umtam, there's so much taught about, when the language is broken down, what happens, in different aspects of the culture. When that broken down, you leave somebody to waste, you leave them open, because, where did they pick up the pieces from? And this is one of the issues when these structures or infrastructures, which are societal structures, when these things have been removed, it leaves those in the West, us in the diaspora, almost open to anything. Again, there's another saying in Umtam: if a child is, if you don't put if the child doesn't have a mother and father, or the family structure, they're like a virgin soil, anybody can plant in them. And I mean, that's where Africans in the diaspora find themselves, whether it be through the Christian religion, whether it be through language, whether it through what they eat, how they live. I mean, they're like children on virgin soils, really, because unless they find ways to reconnect, And this is why I think it's so important that something like the Earth Center has come along, because it provides a basis for those who want to come in and understand about the culture, you know, and try and pick up the pieces, because that's really what we're having to do now, pick up the pieces. It provides such an excellent framework for that.
Yeah, I mean, people end up marrying their siblings, you know, and when I say siblings, I meant like they end up marrying almost like their aunts, their younger sisters, their younger brothers and daddies and all of that. So this is a society that does not have any secure, you know, any security, you know, when it comes to the social foundation. You know, now once a society gets to be in the state where like the social security does not exist, then spiritually that society is lost. It's like a fiasco, a catastrophe. And then you know, intellectually, same thing. Now, physically, which is really like the topic of today, like health-wise, yeah, then it's a problem too. You know, now that's why the system, the modern civilization is suffering. And then you keep really telling people that you are planning to go to the moon, or you went to the moon, or you plan to go to other planets and all of that. But you still struggling to even like maintain the well-being, you know, the health of your people. Like mentally, people are disrupted. Psychologically, people are like already buried, you know, and physically, it's just almost like zombies walking around, and everybody just walking around looking for the next point where they can find some vegetables and some tomatoes and some, you know, some corns to go to take back to the house and eat. I mean, put something on the table for people to eat and all of that. So this is a society, the image of the society we have, and then we have in the modern civilization. But those are things that can be, you know, can be fixed easily. Maybe, probably, this is the reason why our elders decided to, you know, send Prophet Nebnaba, you know, in the West to bring this and then create, you know, I mean, stop that gap and then create a bridge, you know, with this mission to create a bridge where people can somehow look back and then see that there's other ways of doing things. It's not just like one way of doing things.
Yeah.
You know, there's other ways. But let me say this. Some people feel like they might feel like they are not doing like the same things every day, but they don't feel like they are like in a vicious cycle, because you can be like in the same place, same state, and then doing the same thing over and over, which is really like you know, what we would call like like, you know, a seated spirit, okay? Or you can be like in the same place and do like different things from that same place, which is still like the same like someone who's just doing the same thing, being in the same place. There's no big difference, you know. Now, if you don't force yourself to get out of, you know, that ice box, you know, that vicious cycle, and then reach out to, probably, even if you're scared of where you're coming from, I mean, when it comes to survival, you have to depend on where your house. You know, every child that runs out and gets, you know, bullied, next thing to do is go back to your house. You don't just, you know, remain there. So people just have to feel that, and then kind of break those chains and shackles, and then know that there's a different ways, other ways of doing things. It's not just like one way, you know. There's other ways of doing things. Life is not about, you know, just going forward on a straight line. Life is a cycle. You go, you become. You go, you become. If you're going forward and then forward is not promising, come back. Start walking, start going the other way.
You know, something, and I don't want to go too deep in it, but just, you know, for those listeners who may not even understand when we talk about, for example, because I know within the traditions, it's like a spiritual crime for a brother to be with a sister. But most people listening who are not in the initiation and not aware of African structure, family structure, they would say, well, I ain't gonna marry my sister, I'm not with my sister. So just so that they understand that how the family structure is not as we understand it now. And this is another thing, how African traditions see who is your mother, who is your daughter, who is your sister, is not simply the structure that is in place now. I just want to kind of give them that so that they understand, it's not just, my mother and father has a daughter and that's my sister, or my mother has a daughter and it's on, with another man and it's my sister. Actually, that's not your only sister, and your mother, your biological mother, isn't your only mother. Naba?
Anyone who's anybody who's a sister of the same father to your mother, like anyone that your mother might call her sister, and then all of those sisters have like the same father, all of them are your mothers. You might call them my younger mother or my older mother. We have those concepts in America. You might call them that way. But all of those sisters of the same blood or same father that your mother has, all of them are your mothers as well. They can play the role of, your mother. And we know a lot of things that happen in our society too, where like maybe a mother giving birth might not make it, but if she already have like a sister who's already breastfeeding, her own child, and then somehow her older sister, younger sister died during birth, and then that baby needs to be breastfed. Yes, those two kids can be having the same milk. It's the same thing, because it's just like only bodies that are different. But those two children have the chance to have like the same destiny line. So that milk that they're taking from that sister that's alive is the same. There's no big difference. Okay. Now, anyone who's your mother's brother or younger brother is the one that we will call your uncle. Okay, that's what we call uncle. And your big uncle will be your mother's father. You don't call your mother's father your grandpa. That's not a grandpa. That's a grand uncle. Okay, and then your father, on your father's side, anyone who is your mother, and anyone who's your, let me finish the mother side first. On your mother's side, anyone who's your uncle, that you might call uncle, who's like a brother to your mother. If any of those men get to have, children, and then among those children, they have like daughters, you call those daughters your mothers too. Even though they're like a generation below you, they're still your mothers. Okay. Now let's go to the father side. The father side is interesting. Over there, it's just like a straight line. Okay, where if you have your father who has like brothers, you will call all of them your fathers. What's the same blood from the same father. Now, if your father's brothers also have like children, those children are not your cousins. Those are your brothers or your sisters, because you all have the same blood. That's why we talk about the bloodline, and we talk about the destiny line. So the bloodline comes from the father side, and the destiny line will come from the mother side. So that's why we don't cross. Like two exes cannot work together. Like two exes cannot go together, even genetically, genetically, two exes going together will not, bring something that's, good in life. Just like the two Y's, okay? The two Y's cannot go together, okay? So it has to be like an X and Y. So now, if you happen to be in the society where you don't know if the person you're marrying has the same blood as you, then that's like either two X's or two Y's are getting together. And then, you bring children, and those children have like mental problems and have like, spiritual problems or psychological problems, body, physical problems, and then you want to blame other things. But you're not going to blame yourself because you don't know. And that's why we say like knowledge is better than gold.
Yeah, dwell for that, because I know, again, unless they've had interactions with traditional African families or, have an understanding. One in the diaspora, and I certainly didn't understand that until I went through initiation. Understood that there's just a whole different way of looking at family structure. It's just different, and it's from the tradition. So there's so much to relearn, and if you're really seriously on that journey to repatriate, to get back to your culture, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Yes.
People just need to know. Knowledge is, the point is like the modern civilization in almost, let me say the modern civilization just kind of jumped into the responsibility of educating the humanity destiny, or leading humanity destiny into, with 2 feet. They jumped in that responsibility in 2 feet. They didn't even know how it is. They didn't know how to. They didn't have a plan, But not only that, they just jumped like 2 feet in that responsibility, and without having a plan, they also decided like to wipe those who have been holding that responsibility for thousands of years. They decided to destroy them. They decided to, renegade them, and then they decided to kind of just tell them they are savage. They don't know. Now, are you going to go back and sit under the feet of a savage, the one that you called yesterday savage, to teach you today? So that's where we find ourselves, and the ego of our authorities, or those that you might call political authorities or administrative authorities, they have a big ego to the point where they don't feel like they are now facing the wall, because now they're trying to recreate everything. They're trying to recreate all kind of ideologies, which they just want to prove like they are evolving. But they don't say that they just like, devolving, because they just, degenerating, because they trying to live like a life that animals don't even live. The beasts or animals in the forest don't even live that kind of life. I was just reading, talking to some people in America, and then they tell me that there's another concept that just came out in a relationship after monogamy. People saw that monogamy is not working for them. And then that's the family structure. That's the family structure that the modern civilization brought to kind of deny the traditional family structure, which is African traditional family structure, or let's say not just African, but Arabs in Arabs also have polygamy. Some places around the world people practice polygamy. It's not just Africa. So they brought monogamy to deny polygamy. Like modern society is holding, monogamy as a structure, family structure, and now the traditional, as a way of denying the traditional family structure, which is polygamy. Now that didn't work. Monogamy so far it didn't work. It's only like maybe less than 150 years old that they introduced those concepts. Less than that. So it's not working. since it's not working, then they brought about the concept of homosexuality. That you can be with whoever you want to be with. But you're not allowed to be with two women. Anyone can be with whoever they want to be with. And then after that, they went to, all kind of sexuality, bisexuality, whatever. Now, the biggest in that they bring in now, that is already, I don't know if it exists here in England, but in America, it's like what's coming to be like the news now, or the new way of living now, the family structure now, where they call it polyamory or something like that. Polyamory meaning like, you have your wife or you have your husband, but you allowed to go have a, other relationship outside. And that's also supposed to be like family structure.
Okay.
Only dogs do that. Only dogs live that kind of life. And I'm sorry to say that again, like, these modern civilization are built, based on dogs, dogs' way of life. And that's why you love dogs. They love dogs. Dogs are better than human beings. So everybody wants to live like a dog now.
So Namba, let me ask, what would you say to, for example, the kind of theory that Sheikh Anta Diop brought in terms of that because in our Genesis, so you can compare that to when a child is in its informative years, say between the years of 4 to 7, 8. In those years is when the child is really informed, the personality develops, and they acquire certain fundamental character traits. So what was said was that in the informative years of the human development, where we had Africans developing in Africa in a society where it was agricultural. So within that kind of society, you had to work together, because to plant the field, to reap it, to distribute it, to work with other farmers who were growing maybe different crops, then that kind of society would then need a kind of political organization, or an organization around a societal organization that depended on community living, as opposed to in the European culture, which was more nomadic. People were always on the move. There wasn't that opportunity to really form these cohesive community bonds, and in fact they call it xenophobic. So anything that was not of their culture, anything that was strange to them, it would be an attack, because they would attack anything that did not resemble who and what they were. And so in the early genesis of their human makeup, these informative years, which we were liking it to a child, this is the same characteristic traits that we see being manifested even now, where you have, because you can see, Africans have a particular way about them, a more community orientated, whereas the European has more of and because of course they had to fight against nature, the snow, the cold, and that kind of the part that nature played on making a human being. What would your thoughts be on that?
That would be actually, because we have nomadic tribes in Africa too. We have all kind of communities in Africa. But everything just on the aspect of knowledge, on the aspect of principles. The modern, the Caucasian or the European, as you're talking about, those are people that live their life based on, first of all, at certain ages, at the time where in Africa people know how to make fire. Over here, they don't know how to make fire. At the time where in Africa people know how to make soap and then wash clothes and clean themselves. Over here, people don't know clothes. They have to wear the same thing over and over. you know. And this is even how they come up with a washing machine, washing with hot water, because they didn't have soap. They just have to put the clothes in hot water. And for them, that's a way of disinfecting, cleaning their clothes and all of that. So there was a lot of things that happened in history, and when you look in the books of history, you will see that the European awareness was not really like something that's long. It's like recently that they got that awareness. Now that awareness came with the concept of building a society of law, meaning from now on, this is how we do things. So it was like based on law. It wasn't based on principle. The African societies that you're talking about, communities, those societies were based on principles. Those are societies that live according to principles, meaning they already understood life, they already understood existence, and they know how to live, with that existence or within that existence, with everything existence offer them. They live harmoniously and, with respect. So over here, that didn't happen. It took them a long time to realize, that things need to change, and then things needed to be changed. Then they needed to really kind of come up with laws. Whoever was chosen to be the authority, we just wake up one day and then from now on, we don't do this, we do this. From now on, this is the law. This became a law and things like that. Now, we're talking about a society that's talking about that's based on the Bible, and then the Greeks, and the Bible is typically owned by the Romans, and then a society that's function based on the Greek mythology and all of that. Now, for every society, to understand every society, you have to look in the way that they conceive existence or they perceive existence. And now, in the way that they perceive existence, you can see how they conceive it. And now, when they conceive it that way, are we really allowed to blame nature? Because we were born also in the savannah, in the sun, and we have to find a way to live accordingly, that still live like humanly, live like people of knowledge, people with some wisdom and knowledge and all of that. They are respecting the principles that nature imposed on us there. Now here, they try to undo, what nature did. And in trying to undo what nature did, what you end up seeing is the result today. That's what we're seeing today. And we're not going to blame nature for that. I'm sure Professor Chekantajok, in his research was relating. It wasn't like the sole reason. It was just relating facts, and those facts are still going to be facts, but they're not going to be like the cause of why things are the way they are. But they are like facts.
So you're saying it's a decision. It was more of the choices that they made, and they have to take responsibility for that.
Exactly. There was other ways to go about it. Even if you live in the snow, there was other ways to go about it. If you live in the sun, there's other ways to go about it. It's not just, that's what I was saying. There's not like one way of looking at life. There's many. Life is cycling. And then looking at life as a cycle, you can go either way. Because on the cycle, on the rings, you find yourself on the rings or in a runabout. You're going one way, right to left or left to right. You still, going. You're not kind of behind, or you're not ahead. You're just like on your cycle. But when you have a life that's based on a linear view of things, and not only just like a linear view, it's almost like a utopic view of existence, then you feel like it's a, how do you call it? It's a sprint. You know, you have to be running. You have to keep running forward because you don't want to find yourself behind. And this is what's happening politically, you know, religiously, all of that. This is what's really, you know, happening. People are running, but you don't know even where they're running to. Where are they going? What's the goal? What are you trying to catch? You know. So when you see on the football field, you know, when you see someone running on the football field, at least you know the person running to catch a ball, to get the ball, or to defend something. You know, but in this modern society, you see everybody running, and you don't know where those ideologies are running to. You don't know where they're going. So that's like a big, you know, a big dilemma right now. So we shouldn't be blaming nature for that. Nature is so patient with humans. Now, if we have to blame nature with everything those modern society did to nature today, if nature has to be angry and then react, I don't think, you know, your big cities will be standing today. You know, a lot of cities will go down and all of that. So we just have to be grateful to nature and admit that we are the one, you know, being human and just being like, you know, self-destructive, you know, beings that are, you know, happen to be walking on the face of this planet.
And I just want to interject there as well. We saw pictures of the forests that were set alight in the Amazon, and how many millions of hectares. But we also got the understanding that thousands of wildfires have been set in places like the Congo and other regions in Africa, where again there are interest groups wanting to go into the place to mine oil or whatever minerals, and they're setting the forests alight. So it was just in response to the destruction that we are causing, you know. And if we're talking about health, those are the very things that we will use to heal ourselves on this planet. Mankind has gone crazy.
I think I got it good. I'm so sorry about these plants and those big trees and lives, animal lives that were being burned, you know, in Amazon. I'm so sorry. And then with those communities and those indigenous communities, we will always, you know, keep praying so that these kind of things don't happen again. Right? You know, the reality is like when situations happen, there's a reality and there's a fake reality. You know, there's a reality and there's a way that we choose to look at those realities. And I got a chance to be in, you know, to work with indigenous people from South America, you know, South America indigenous cultures and all of that. And it's always kind of, you know, hit me right in my brain to sit there and watching, you know, how they do healing, or how they practice healing, and how they practice spirituality, and that kind of almost, you know, got me thinking a lot. You know, I mean, in any situation you find yourself, you just have to use that brain and think. You know, say, you know, why this is happening, or why did it happen, or why is it happening? Because it was happening, you know, a long time ago. And why did it happen at that time? And now, why is it happening now? You know, if your ancestors used to worship fire, and then you grow up and then you forgot everything, and then the worship of the fire is what you still remember, you have to understand why your ancestors were worshiping fire. And at the time they were worshiping fire, because life is dynamic. Life is so dynamic, and things don't remain the same. You have to move with life. And that's what I was just saying. It's like a cycling. It's a cycle. We have to move with it. You know, it's not like a line that we just walking on and then we just have to keep going. No. Now, a lot of, you know, traditional indigenous practices that are assisted, we can blame politics. We can decide to blame politics. We can decide to blame, how do you call it?
The multinational companies.
yeah, all the companies and whatever, we can decide to do that. But the reality is that we have to look at ourselves. What are we doing wrong? Those sister communities, indigenous communities over there, they have to look at themselves and see what they're doing wrong. Because they were the first one to open also their hands and their doors, their gates to the Western, to the Caucasian, to come there. And every Caucasian who live thinks that they're going over there to, to meditate or to whatever, heal themselves and all of that. Now, when you open your house to somebody and they come and they steal, don't go calling them, thief, because you're the one who didn't know how to receive them, and you're the one who didn't know how to protect things that needed to be protected. Okay, so being a revolutionary, being on the mission of revolution, we just have to be telling each other the truth that needs to be told. Okay, and then if those sister indigenous communities are listening to this or watching this, they have to also face the reality and question themselves why our ancestors were worshiping fire. And at that moment where they were worshiping fire, why? Is it still necessary for us to keep worshiping fire at this stage where we are right now, or at this stage where life is right now? What can we change in our worship? So this fire, but we know that sometimes nature has a way of cleansing itself as well, and nature can just start its own fire, But let me ask this, Katasta. Do you know that you can make fire with 2 rocks?
Well, I've seen them do it like a flint. So there's certain rocks that you can. I've never done it myself, but they use like a flint and start a spark, and yeah.
That means that fire exists in the rock, right?
Some things there which cause the ignition. So yeah, the friction,
Okay.
I think they call it.
Yeah. Now, if fire exists in the rock, do you think when you throw that rock in the water, that fire also stop existing in the rock?
Well, it'd be more difficult for the fire to ignite in water.
Exactly. That's that's where in Africa our ancestors, amazed the rest of the world, till today, where with all of these, all of the things that African civilization built, we see kind of amazing people, because a rock in water can also still contain its own fire, and people will make fire on water. Okay, so the point I'm making is that fire exists everywhere. Okay, and if nature is in need of fire, nature will make it happen. If nature is in need of rain, nature will make it happen. Now, as a human who are living in nature and on earth, and who submit themselves to natural laws and principles and universal principles, our ancestors were also able to learn how to make fire when the fire is needed, and then how to make rain when the rain is needed. So I'm saying this to just prove, like, the South American indigenous culture, worship needs to also try to evolve, because already in 2012, according to the news that we received, they were telling us that the South American, according to their time machine or how they approach time, 2012 is the end of the time. Okay, 2012 was like the end of the time, according
the
to
Mayan
the way they
calendar. Yeah, the Mayan calendar.
exactly according to the way their ancestors perceived things. Now, that doesn't mean that for the Kemetic ancestors or the African ancestors, that doesn't mean that they kind of, wrote everything for us to just follow and it's not going to finish. They wrote things and then also left us with ideas, left us with advice, left us with principles to know that at some point, when things change, you have to find a way to change, adapt without really corrupting what you already acquired. Now, we have our Kemetic calendar that's still functioning. That's still following everything. That's been very, thanks to Prophet Nebnaba, now we have it like even on paper, and then people following. We're going to have it now like how do you call it? We're going to have like an app.
Great.
That will be, helping us follow time too. Now, if you have that kind of culture and then you just take the credit to only enjoy it, that you don't work to perpetuate it, then it's finished. You're going to lose everything.
Sweet.
And that's where we speak about the importance of initiation, the importance of temples, the importance of mystery schools, the importance of the rite of passage for every child or every human being. Now, in South American societies, indigenous societies, they lost all of that already. The white men did a good job there and they wiped all of that already. Now they don't have that anymore. Now whatever they have left is really the history that they're holding, and then they don't know how to take that history to the next level. So with worshiping the fire and all of that, when the fire starts, then it's time now to worship water. You've been worshiping fire for, thousands of years now. Their life is changing. Isn't it time for you to start looking ways to now learn how to start worshiping other elements of nature? Fire is not just the only element in the universe. So that's really, how we look at it, and we're like, okay, we're just going to pray that, those indigenous cultures, tradition there, or those indigenous communities, start really, sitting. They need to have some sittings and, serious sitting, and then think about where to go from here.
I know there were some prayers that went out for them, and then that night they said it rained, so that was a real big plus there. But I have to check in again to see how.
No, it did. It did rain, because that's what I'm saying. If you keep only worshiping one element, that element will rise. There's no balance anymore. You lose balance. No, learn how to worship things where like you create balance in your life. They do pray. They ask everybody, even myself. They ask like if we can really contribute in prayers wherever we are, and then all that. We did it. All around the world, they reach out. We did it. The rain came.
The rain came. That's right.
So they need to understand that. I mean, how can fire really start in the Amazon? Amazon is always wet. That's why it's called Amazon.
But you're aware of the court case that they had just a few days before against the the big companies. So the underlying suspicion is that because they didn't get their way, they've just found another way to do that. Obviously, I don't know that, but that's what the underlying suspicion is.
Yeah, we just have to look at things. We just have to face things, like. Kakasa, when you like an indigenous person, meaning you are a person of culture, you are a person of knowledge, and a person of wisdom. Now, where you have wisdom and you have knowledge and you have a culture, you need to have clairvoyance. And clairvoyance means that we have to, at some point, look deep inside ourselves. I can blame you for everything you're doing that's destroying me, but I need to check what am I doing to contribute
to that destruction.
Into you, doing what you're doing to destroy me. That's all. When you point your finger at somebody, when you look closely, you will see that you're pointing 3 fingers towards yourself. But you're pointing 1 finger out. So the 3 fingers are pointing towards you.
So in everything, we have to always take responsibility, irrespective
We have
of.
to.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand that.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I used to work with some Colombian, the Mamos and all of that from Colombia, and we always tell them there's a time. This is a time where they need to start uh, doing divinations in their traditions to try to bring back a system of initiation and education. Otherwise, there's going to be a time where you know they're not going to have anything to stand on. Even their own land, they're not going to have a land to stand on to call their land. And the situation that we're facing today in the Amazon in South America is that they they're the one who opened the gates. They opened the gates. They call everybody. They didn't make sure that before you come to our place, these are the principles that you need to stand on.
And it is.
I mean, somebody can come to Burkina Faso, and they will just remain to the city life, or even if they try to go close to the traditional life, there's only whatever happening in the marketplace that they will see. They're not going to see what's happening in the initiation camps. That's how we protect ourselves. And they need to have a system of protecting themselves, making sure that they are really upholding, what their ancestors left for them. Not only they left you the culture, but they left you a land. So you need to uphold all of that.
I mean, this is a time of deep challenging, and we are speaking about the Amazon. It can be in any situation, but when you have also, and again, it's from my understanding, I don't know that for fact, but from what I understand, you have also the leader of the country who is against, the indigenous ways, and we know that because we see that across many cultures where the leaders have been brought in and they're not for the people. I mean, all of these are challenges that I guess we've fought through time, and again we just have to continue. And it was interesting when you said that those who have brought the initiation up to this point, it's like a relay. So even going through initiation, it's incumbent on, or any path in life, whether it's your family, the next generation, that they take the baton and hand it to the next generation, and they will have the responsibility of running part of the race if they've got the baton in their hand. So it's not an easy road, but it is a road that has to be run.
Yeah, I understand. Even for them, we know that it's not an easy road because you can be dressed to look like your ancestors. You can be talking to sound like your ancestors. But if you don't take time to consult them to know what's the next step to take, you might not be taking the steps that your ancestors took.
That's right.
You might not be walking as the way they walk. So that's a dilemma. A dilemma where you look like your father or your mother, you speak like your father or your mother, you dress like your father or your mother, but you don't walk like your father or your mother. You don't behave like your father or your mother, then a problem. So that disconnection, disruption and disconnection of every human or every indigenous community is something that needs to be dealt with, because especially those in the South America. Those in South America, they need to really, reconnect with their past in order to be able to build their future instead of just focusing on this present. And this present will bring them everything they need. They're losing the future. They're sacrificing the future for this present. Which you will look at African cultures, and then you will at least, see that even though the concept of political leaders exist there, and their religions are coming and all. Even people who are about Chinese coming over there and all of that. But you don't throw away your mother's pot because because your neighbor is promising to give you a new pot. You don't throw away your mother's pot because your neighbor is promising to give you a new one. So that's really like a big thing that in Africa that's helping us to continue what we're doing by making sure that we still, connected to who we are, still connected to those who, left all of this to us for us to inherit. We don't take it as we own it. We take it as something that's passed down, and we have to take care of it to be able to pass it down to other people. With the same principle, protecting it, preserving it, and all of that. So I will tell you, I got for over 7 years now, I've been traveling with, Native Americans and name them, Native Americans and South American indigenous cultures, and assisting to their ceremonies and seeing how, they worship, because you have to humble. No matter what you still have to humble when it comes to tradition. So, and assisting to all of that, Katasta is not quite promising. It's not quite promising. I mean, for a Caucasian to be assisting to those things, it's going to be amazing. The person will feel like, wow, this is amazing. Because everything will appeal to that person's emotional expectation. Like, you come to us in Africa, we're going to make it difficult for you. We're going to make your life so difficult to the point where when you come, next time they invite you to come, you're not going to go. But that's how we make sure that you are like us before we can give you what you need to have. We're not going to give you things because you come and smiling at us or giving us money. We don't look at that, because spirituality is not about money. It's more about quality.
Oh, wow, Naba, I want to say thank you so much for that. But just before you go, we may get you back on the radio before you leave, but just in case you don't. And as you say, it's about the continuation of the culture. And we are coming to the end of a period, the 418 period, and starting a new period. And I don't know if you could just maybe say some words. I'm going to read out about the New Year's Day, the Fish Day, and Ancestral Holiday, the Divine Holy Day. I will read the dates and invite people. But as we come out of this period and transitioning into a new period, is there something you can just give the listeners so that they are aware of, in terms of the Kemet time, where we are, and, going into this new year period before we finish this interview this evening?
Yeah, I mean, what I can say about that is to have a calendar, to have a way of measuring time, following time. We have to be very serious about it, because nowadays the kind of time that the modern civilization impose on everybody, every human, is almost like time that is not within time, and then time that is not within the space we live in. It's almost like an illusion that we live in, and in our tradition, as we were talking now, in our tradition, our ancestors were able to still keep the time, and then in keeping that time, they just kept their approach in the way that they're not going to be outside of time and they're not going to be outside of space. A good calendar is the one that follows, that respects the principle of the space and the principle of time itself. Because one thing is that we cannot disassociate time and space because they are like one thing working together. That's what makes universe. That's what makes existence. That's what makes the cosmos that we know, the order, you know. And when we look at the Gregorian calendar, it's actually a calendar that does not follow time. It's a calendar that does not even follow, respect the space, you know. So we don't even know what that calendar is based on. So according to our Kemetic calendar, the next, our new year or our end of year is always in September. It's between the 10th or the 11th, depending on the year. And this year, the 418 calendar will finish on September 10th, and the new calendar, which will be like 419, will start on the September 11th. And people might ask me why we're talking about 418. According to the calendar, the Sidereal calendar, and according to the principles and the knowledges that, you know, kind of help produce that time approach is based on the star that's called the Sirius star. We call it Septex, and that star is located in next to the Orion constellation. And according to that star, we know that that star has a cycle that is about 1,461 days. That's when that, you know, that's the cycle that that star has. But that star also, the Sirius star also has the orbit that is like an orbit that's very big, but very exact, you know, meaning when the Sirius star leaves one point at some period, it will complete 1,461 years before it comes back to that same exact point on its orbit. Now, what people don't know about the Sirius star is that it's a star that's dense, 6 times heavier, 6 times hotter, 6 times further than even the sun. Now, if you consider the sun to be like the center of, you know, what the science say, you know, our solar system, you will understand that even the sun is within the orbit of, you know, the Sirius star, and then the sun has to, at some point, adjust to what is being imposed by the one that's heavier, that's brighter, and that burns, you know, hotter than it. So every 1,461 years, the sun, from the position of Earth, when you are on Earth and you look in the sky, you will see that the moon, the Earth, the moon, the sun, and the Sirius star are aligned. Like they get to be aligned every 1,461 years. Now, that alignment causes a lot of turbulence in the universe. That alignment causes a lot of changes in the universe. And one of those changes that we might notice is last time that happened was the time that, you know, we end up in slavery. Okay? That's the time we end up in slavery. And that was 418 years ago. And then when we talk about years, we have what we call like seasonal years. And we have also seasonal here would be what would be considered in our culture as the year of the farmer, the farmer's year. And then we have what we call like the small year. And then we have what we call it the big year. So the seasonal year is 365 days. Okay, we call that the seasonal year. That time of year is the year for the farmer. That's like the season, the one that the farmers in our place follows in order for them to be farming and following time and the farming and all of that. Now we have the one that we call the small year, and that's the one that is 1,461 days, which is really like three times 365 days, and then one time 366 days. Okay, now that means four seasonal years plus a leap day, a leap and plus the day that we call like the day of adjustment, which you will call in English the leap day or the leap year, the one that marks the leap year. And now we have like the big year, which is the 1,461 years, where all of those four celestial bodies and other celestial bodies gets to be realigned. Now, this new year already, 419, is already projecting a lot of disasters, is already projecting a lot of catastrophes, a lot of accidents, a lot of incidents, a lot of problems, a lot of sicknesses, and those sicknesses mainly located from the heart, located from the brain, located from the legs, like the joints. So most of the problems that we'll be facing in this coming new year, that the stars and the constellations and the celestial bodies are imposing on every life on planet Earth are really what I just kind of pronounced, said now. And we wish and we will pray that all of the things that we were able to achieve in this 418 year, we're very grateful to the gods. We're very grateful to, infinitely grateful to our ancestors and to Mother Nature, to Mother Earth, and to all of the spirits, those we see and those we don't see, that contributed in us being able to, face our challenges and overcome, some of them. And in every house, in every, city, in every country, in every village, just, to say on the whole planet, we wish that the 419 brings us, the courage, brings us the dedication, brings us the intelligence and the clairvoyance in the way that we will be approaching, our lives for the next period that's about to open. And may the gods and the ancestors and the spirits and Mother Nature, Mother Earth, may all of them really keep standing on us and keep giving us a chance, to change, a chance to be what they expect us humanity to be. What they expect our humanity to be. And then may all of the politicians, all of the country leaders, all of the religious leaders, may all of the powers, that are granted to those people, help those people see, life in the best way of humanity, and see life in the best way of every new generation to come and every new children, newborns that will be coming in this next period. And then we wish, everybody, the best that they can provide to make this place a better place that we can live and to build the world that we want to live.
Wow, Naba.
Amen.
Thank you so much for coming on and delivering the wisdom of the ancestors. And may they continue to guide you and protect you and keep you strong.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay. So let me just make sure that yeah, we are still. So that was Naba Irita Shinmira, son of Naba Lamusa Morandenebeg, founder of the Earth Center. Nebnaba Lamusa Morandenebeg was the founder of the Earth Center, high priest from the Dogon traditions. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, Naba.
Thank you, Katasa. And thanks to everyone listening.
Okay. Wow. And Iriheru.
Iriheru.
When wisdom comes, we have to listen. We have gone way over time, but it's necessary. At times like this, it's necessary. So what I want to do before we close off the show tonight, I want to give you the information on the presentation that's going to be coming up again at the school. But before I do that, you just heard Naba speaking about the transitioning of year 418. So within the Earth Center and within Kemet, those who walk the road of a Kemet, and an initiate, and who walk that pathway, we celebrate our New Year's, as Nava said, on Wednesdays. For this year, it's going to be Wednesday, September the 11th, and we call it the first day of Tahuti because that's the month. The first month of our year is Tahuti. So September the 11th, we have Tahuti. Now, prior to that, we have the 5 days of Nut. So the days prior to September, we will also September the 11th, we will be having divine holy days at the school. If you want to know more about that, you'll have to come to the school and we can tell you more about what those days are, which is the 13th month, what those days are about. So those are the last days of the old year, which is this year 418. So we will be having those 5 days Zemzem, which is a community gathering, prayers, divine prayers at the school. So those 5 days prior to September the 11th, and then on September the 11th, there is New Year's Day. We have on the 5th, 5th of Tahuti, but it's actually the Thursday, the September the 19th. We have what we call Fish Day, a day when we don't eat anything on the land for those who eat meat, only fish. And then on the 19th of Tahuti, which is Sunday, the 29th of September, we have a special day called the Day of Tahuti. And again, if you want to know more about those days and the celebrations that we will be having, then come and join us at the school. And that is at 21 Sunnyside Road, Leighton, E10 7BB. This Saturday we'll be having a lecture in the school. The lecture will be on the importance of ancestors. It's from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. The entrance fee is £7. You can come and take in the lecture, but there will be so much more we can share with you. We have what we've been speaking about, the Ancaster herbs and Ancaster committee, which we have different aspects of Ancaster there, will be in the school. We have the Firefly products, which are our Rising Firefly magazines, the Philosophy Podium, which is a book written by Neb Naba. We have the 77, which is the 77 laws by which we live. And there are a number of other products that we have. It's the school as well as a temple. So if you want to know more about the initiation, coming in and learning more about what Naba was speaking about. And as you can see, we spoke about Umtam, the Bayawali, the healing, which is just one aspect. Then, you know, Naba began to speak about the celestial side in terms of the calendar, and that's just another part of the knowledge that is held within the initiation, just another part. There is just so much more. So if you really want to know more about the wisdom of our ancestors, which is coming from the wisdom of the Nile, we have an event 31st of August at the school. This one is going to be on the importance of ancestors. The next one on the September the 28th will be on spirituality and religion. I'm Catastrophe Fakara. I want to thank you for tuning in this week to the Wisdom of the Nile show. I want to thank again Naba Irita Shenmira for sharing the knowledge with us. I just want to thank our ancestors for giving us this opportunity to be living and walking this road, and for sharing with those souls who also want to take the path. We thank Nebnaba Lamusa Monendenibeg for bringing this initiation into the West. Iriheru, see you again next time.
This song goes in the memory of the beloved Prophet Nebnaba Lamusa Morodinabig, the Dogon Prince, Maher, the truth teller, Bisina Basa, which means I'll be appreciated after I'm gone. He's the man who overcome the devils with love. He's the man who speaks because he has something to say. The man of wisdom, the definition of humanity. Maheru, Maheru, Maheru. From far away, from far away, far away, from far away, West Africa, from far away, Prophet Naba, far away, Lamusa, far away, Morodinabig, far away, Prophet, from far away, Prophet Naba, far away, from far away, from far away, Prophet, from far away. He's the man of wisdom. He's the man who lived by faith, and not by fear. His greatest wealth is the richness of his soul. He's the man who lived by faith and not by fear. He's the double-edged sword. He's the double-edged sword. He's the key to unlock the treachery. Follow truth and you shall find him. He's the definition of humanity. He's the beginning and the end. He's the prophet Naba. Far away, from far away, far away, from far away, West Africa, from far away, Prophet Naba, far away, Lamusa, far away, Morodinabig, far away, Prophet, from far away, Prophet Naba, far away, from far away, from far away, Prophet, from far away. Bob Marley say, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophet
Why we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We gotta fulfill the board. Come to Maheru, come to Maheru, come to Maheru. He got your own told story.